Egypt completes preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum opening tomorrow. The U.S. says Hamas is given 24 hours to evacuate its forces from the area behind the Yellow Line. And the European Commission strongly condemns the attacks targeting civilians in Sudan. Four p.m. here in Cairo, time for the news with me, Hala Al-Hamalawi. Egypt finalized preparations for tomorrow's Grand Egyptian Museum opening, with ministers coordinating a seamless inauguration. Final checks are underway ahead of the Grand Egyptian Museum's long-awaited opening, with authorities handling security, traffic and visitor services for an event expected to draw global attention. Main roads were announced as fully upgraded to improve flow towards the museum. Officials said that transport plans, ceremony, logistics and media operations are in place, with hospitality and emergency response on standby. The opening aims to showcase Egypt's cultural leadership, boost tourism and anchor a wider revitalization of the Gaza Plateau. Egypt's Ministry of Interior has announced traffic diversions ahead of the Grand Egyptian Museum opening ceremony. This comes as part of the final preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum's opening ceremony tomorrow, where several temporary traffic diversions will be implemented to ensure smooth flow. The Egyptian Interior Ministry announced that alternative routes, including Al-Batal Ahmed Abdelaziz Street for traffic from Giza Naz Street, the Peace Tunnel Surface Road for the Ring Road traffic, Shore Link for October traffic, and the Western Arc via the Ring Road for the 26th of July traffic. That comes as traffic police will guide motorists and ensure fluid movement. The Grand Egyptian Museum was named the 2024 Best Project Worldwide by the International Federation of Consulting Engineers, recognizing its fusion of cutting-edge engineering and iconic design and cementing Egypt's leadership in global heritage. The Federation hailed the museum as a landmark of innovation and advanced engineering, citing its scale, conservation labs, and visitor infrastructure as benchmarks for world museums. The award reinforces the GEM status as both an architectural masterpiece and a premier cultural institution, underscoring Egypt's rising global role in heritage preservation and modern design excellence. Officials said that the recognition will boost international tourism and partnerships around conservation, research, and exhibitions. Egypt's Tourism and Antiquities Minister Sherif Fathi said that the Grand Egyptian Museum is a global game changer, not only the world's largest museum devoted to a single civilization, but also a cutting-edge scientific hub for research, conservation and training. The minister has further said that the museum pairs iconic architecture with innovative displays while operating as a fully fledged research center. The museum houses advanced conservation labs, materials analysis suites and digital collections, and runs training programs and joint missions with universities and heritage institutions worldwide. The minister also added that the GEM will serve scholars and specialists from Egypt and abroad, strengthening preservation of Egyptian antiquities and expanding Egyptology research. Jordan's tourism minister, Imad Hijazin, hailed tomorrow's Grand Egyptian Museum opening overlooking the Giza pyramids, calling it a world-class cultural landmark and a powerful global tourism magnet. Speaking to reporters in Amman, Hijazin said that the gem's debut, one of modern Egypt's signature achievements, will lift tourism across the region, including Jordan's Petra, by drawing new long-haul itineraries. He also said that the museum marks a qualitative leap in the display and documentation of ancient Egypt and opens broad avenues for Egypt-Jordan cooperation, exhibition technologies, digital archiving, and conservation and restoration training, alongside private sector joint packages. Offering congratulations to Egypt's leadership and people, he called the gem a masterpiece of architecture and a gift to humanity. The French daily Le Monde has said that Egypt will open the Grand Egyptian Museum tomorrow, spotlighting Cairo's cultural power and a renewed tourism push. In a preview piece, Le Monde frames the museum's debut as a marquee moment for Egypt's image abroad, noting that the sites draw for international media and tour operators ahead of peak season. Editors highlighted the opening's significance for global cultural diplomacy and new cross-border partnerships in exhibitions and research. Officials expect heavy foreign press attendance and coordinated visitor flows on launch day, with promotional campaigns targeting European markets in the weeks that follow. Egyptian archaeologists say Hawass called the Grand Egyptian Museum's opening a global day, saying that modern Egypt will showcase the glory of its ancient civilization in an unprecedented event on Saturday. Hawass has said that the opening is effectively a holiday for world museums, citing two reasons for the gem's singular status: a unique display of treasures from Egypt's most famous pharaohs and the world's largest museum devoted to a single civilization. He said that Egypt will reap political, media, tourism, and economic gains with dozens of prominent international guests and extensive global coverage, including a broadcast carried by roughly 500 stations. Hawass said that the ceremony will mark a cultural milestone, not just for Egypt, but for humanity. Lights bathe the Grand Egyptian Museum and Giza pyramids in color ahead of Saturday's long-awaited inauguration, as Egypt touts the gem as the crown jewel of its tourism overall. With a panoramic view of the Pyramids Plateau, the billion-dollar Grand Egyptian Museum will showcase thousands of artifacts spanning over 5,000 years of antiquity. Final lighting tests and venue checks continued tonight as the organizers prepared galleries and visitor flows for the opening day. Officials said that the complex is designed to lift arrivals, length stays, and anchor new cultural itineraries linking Giza with museums and sites nationwide. Dubai's Burj Khalifa lit up in Egypt's flag colors with pharaonic motifs, sending a salute to Cairo on the eve of the Grand Egyptian Museum's inauguration tomorrow. The world's tallest tower cycled through red, white, black bands and animated images of ancient Egyptian reliefs and statues, ending with the message, "Egypt, cradle of civilizations." The display comes amid global build-up to the Grand Egyptian Museum's opening. Officials and tour operators expect the launch to draw heavy international attention and new itineraries centered on Cairo and Giza, anchored by headline collections, including the full Tutankhamun assemblage. To shed more light on this very important event, we go to Mark in our newsroom. To you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Hala. Yes, we are now joined from Cairo by the Al Ahram newspaper managing editor, Mr. Mohammed Ez Al-Din. Thank you very much for joining us on Q News on this big weekend. Do you think the Grand Egyptian Museum might redefine Egypt's global cultural leadership? And what message do you think this sends about Egypt's national renaissance today?
Can we repeat the question?
Yes, of course. What I was asking you about the Grand Egyptian Museum, how do you think this might redefine Egypt's global cultural leadership? And does it send a message about Egypt's national renaissance today?
Thank you for hosting me. Of course, the opening of the museum is one of the most important events this year. Our culture lasted for thousands of years and the museum is huge, full of monuments, more than 100,000. And we are viewing for the first time a lot of new monuments from Tutankhamun's collection. This is unprecedented, and now the whole world is looking at Egypt because we are hosting this great event. And of course, the world want to know new secrets and new monuments being shown for the first time. Egypt is fully ready for this amazing event organized by Al Muttahida company and all the national entities to host our guests and warmly welcome them to fit our position in the world. Of course, there are great plans. It will be shown in the next few hours. And of course, it's expected that this event and celebration would be huge. All the officials, Egyptian officials, will be there, of course. The president ordered to host this amazing celebration that shows our great culture and heritage and shows and reflects the efforts of our ancestors and us as their descendants. We should show it in a manner that befits them. And our Egyptian guests, our guests are now coming over to witness this unprecedented event and celebration. This museum is the biggest in the world, showing the monuments of one culture, and it shows the heritage of one country, not collections from different countries and heritages. So it's considered one of the most important in the world, and it's not considered a museum just to show monuments and statues, but to show a culture, a heritage, a culture that dominated the world for thousands of years. I think it's one of the most important events right now, and we're all looking forward to see what's going to happen and the shows and the monuments. Of course, all the foreign press and media are here, and a large number of local and Arab media are here, and there is live, whether on Muttahida or Egyptian News.
And of course, the Grand Egyptian Museum won the Best Project Worldwide award. What does it say about Egyptian engineering and design?
The message we focus on is that Egypt is a country with full of heritage, one of the oldest cultures in the world, and now we show our heritage and we show all our capacities and capabilities as we want to honor the tradition that communicate with all around us. The message we want to show is peace and to regain the Egyptian position and status and to work to achieve peace and harmony with all over with all the world. And the message to show the culture and heritage encompassing all religions and status, and also reflects the development of Egypt as well as the sacrifices made by Egyptians and Egyptian soldiers throughout the years. The Egyptian army is also very important in this event. We will focus on that through the show tomorrow.
Now, in soft power terms, do you think the Grand Egyptian Museum might elevate Egypt's diplomatic reach? What I was asking, I don't believe you could hear me there, sir, but what I was asking was, do you think that the Grand Egyptian Museum might elevate Egypt's diplomatic reach and improve cultural partnerships?
I think that will improve. We're trying to improve the relations with the rest of the world. Egypt affected and was affected by other cultures, and of course all the many officials coming here will be welcomed deeply. We will host them warmly, and this also reflects the current role trying to entrench peace and the development and culture exchange, as well as trying to make Egypt an important country, a mediator that welcomes all cultures. Also, this event showcases the importance of ancient Egyptian culture.
And do you think the Grand Egyptian Museum could be a game changer for Egypt when it comes to science, conservation labs, training programs, and Egypt becoming the region's hub for heritage innovation?
The Grand Egyptian Museum will greatly affect Egyptian tourism forever. There will be a touristic product that's very different. We took care of all the stolen pieces that were stolen from Egypt, but now we're trying to showcase a large number of the Egyptian monuments under one roof, and visitors from all over the world can come here and view these priceless monuments. Of course, there were plans to make the launch of the museum will lead to a touristic development in Egypt and a cultural development as well. And this will participate greatly in the economic development and increasing not only the number of visitors and tourists, which we expect to be 30 million visitors in the next couple of years, but also it will increase the touristic revenues that is a great part of the Egyptian economy. Also, it will change the culture of tourism inside of Egypt, and we all saw on social media Egyptian keenness to change the profile pictures on all social media, whether youth or the elderly, to reflect the amazing event. This shows that there is a change or a shift regarding the tourism and showcase our heritage and to show it to the world as a cultural and touristic product with economic revenue now and in the future.
Well, thank you very much, Mohammed Az Al-Din from Al Ahram newspaper, managing editor there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Q News, and expect to Hella in the studio.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. And moving on, ladies and gentlemen, now we delve into the latest developments on Gaza.
And then, of course, we have the host tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. There was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful and very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate, and you are a great leader. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great president, and I want to thank Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. Thank you very much.
Axios has quoted a U.S. official as saying that Hamas had been given 24 hours to evacuate its forces from the area behind the Yellow Line in Gaza. After the deadline, Israel will enforce the ceasefire by force. The official added that Israeli operations would target Hamas positions within its controlled territories if the movement failed to comply with the ultimatum. U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, has arrived in Israel to discuss the situation in Gaza and the implementation of the ceasefire. Kane is expected to inspect the Civil-Military Coordination Center in Kiryat Gat, which oversees ceasefire monitoring, and hold meetings with senior Israeli officials to assess field developments and ensure adherence to the truce agreement. Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis has announced that Israel had returned the bodies of 30 Palestinians to Gaza under the ceasefire and exchange deal. The move came a day after Hamas handed over the remains of 2 Israeli detainees to Israel via the International Committee of the Red Cross. Palestinian child was killed after the Israeli occupation forces raided Silwad, east of Ramallah, firing live bullets and tear gas during clashes with residents. The Palestinian news agency reported that troops prevented ambulances from evacuating the injured child, who was later pronounced dead at the Palestine Medical Complex. Israeli settlers backed by the Israeli occupation forces have attacked Palestinian farmers harvesting olives in the town of Sinjil, north of Ramallah, forcing them off their lands at gunpoint. Several activists were detained. The Palestinian Anti-Wall and Settlement Commission reported 259 settler assaults on olive harvesters since early October, marking a surge in violence against civilians in the occupied West Bank. Coming up during this news hour on Q News, President Joseph Aoun says that Lebanon will deploy 10,000 troops in the south by year's end to safeguard sovereignty. And the Sudanese army launches strikes on rapid support forces positions in West Kordofan.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has affirmed that the Lebanese army's deployment in the south will rise to 10,000 troops by year's end, emphasizing that the army remains the sole guarantor of Lebanon's sovereignty and defense. He stressed that Lebanon prefers negotiation over war, noting that the timing, format, and venue of talks with Israel can be decided later. Aoun reiterated readiness for dialogue to end the Israeli occupation, but said that negotiations require mutual commitment, urging Germany to pressure Israel to honor the ceasefire agreement. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul has said that for the Lebanese people to live in peace and security, the current truce between Israel and Hezbollah must evolve into a lasting peace. Wadephul emphasized that stability in Lebanon and along its southern border depends on transforming temporary calm into a permanent agreement that prevents further escalation and ensures mutual security for all parties involved. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has affirmed that restricting arms to the state is not a slogan, but an irreversible decision. He noted that Lebanon has taken serious measures concerning weapons in Palestinian camps and emphasized his government's commitment to mobilizing all the political and diplomatic efforts to halt Israeli violations of Lebanese sovereignty. Lebanon's health ministry has reported one person killed and another injured in an Israeli airstrike on the town of Kurin in Bint Jbeil district. This came after Israel's public broadcaster said that the Israeli military was considering intensifying strikes on Lebanon amid Hezbollah's restoration of its defensive and offensive capabilities and acquisition of short-range missiles. The Sudanese army has launched airstrikes on rapid support forces positions in West Kordofan. Meanwhile, Sudan's Doctors Network reported mass displacement from Bara locality in North Kordofan towards El Obeid city, with over 4,500 civilians fleeing due to worsening security and RSF violations. Humanitarian conditions continue to deteriorate rapidly across both states. The European Commission has strongly condemned the attacks targeting civilians in Sudan, stressing that such violence is unacceptable. It affirmed that the European Union is actively employing all available tools to help achieve a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The EU also called for an immediate ceasefire and a return to negotiations, emphasizing the urgent need to protect civilians, facilitate humanitarian access, and restore stability across country through the dialogue and diplomacy. The United Nations has warned that Al-Fasher has become an epicenter of systematic atrocities. The UN added that nearly 120,000 people, including many children, were trapped amid escalating clashes between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces in Darfur. The situation continues to deteriorate, raising grave humanitarian concerns over civilian safety and access to aid. And this brings us to the end of our news bulletin. But before we wrap it up, here is a recap of the top stories making headlines this hour. Egypt completes preparations for the Grand Egyptian Museum opening tomorrow. The U.S. says Hamas is given 24 hours to evacuate its forces from the area behind the Yellow Line. And the European Commission strongly condemns the attacks targeting civilians in Sudan. Well, for more stories and live updates, follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to always stay informed. From all of us here, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.